Hi everybody, and welcome back to Sew Along with Jan and part 3 of the October Kimberbell Mini Quilt. In this video we're going to make 3 blocks, and we have 3 more cupcakes to make. We're going to make Cupcake 6, Cupcake 1, and Cupcake 8. But when we start this video, we're going to make the Dimensional Candies. There's a couple little candies that you make with water-soluble stabilizer. And it's on page 24 of the instructions. It's right before you get to the assembly. And I want to make sure that these dry, because we're going to be doing these on water-soluble stabilizer, like sew and wash, that type of thing, wet and gone. It's the fibrous type water-soluble. I have 2 layers in my 4x4 hoop that I'm going to use. And then I'm going to be using matching thread in the bobbin. So I think the Kimberbell has you changing it back and forth, but I'm just going to use matching threads. So when I use orange in the needle, I'm going to put orange in the bobbin. And when I use the off-white, I'm going to do that in the bobbin. So what I have done also is, since I have wound embroidery thread for my bobbin here, I have changed my bobbin case back to my standard bobbin case instead of my tight one that I use with my pre-wounds. So I've got that ready. I've got 2 layers of the water-soluble stabilizer in a 4x4 hoop. And then what we need out of the little embellishment kit is there's 2 pieces of white tulle and a piece of mylar, iridescent mylar. So that's what we're going to use for this, plus the orange and the kind of off-white thread. Okay, so let me get my blocks out of the way here. We'll work with those in a minute. Let's go ahead and get started with this. Let's go get our design. So these are the Dimensional Candies, and they do fit in the 4x4. Get those. So this has been really fun. It's kind of fun to do these little dimensional ones every now and then. They stick them in occasionally, so these are fun to do. But I like to do these and then let them dry, because we'll need to rinse the stabilizer out, and I like to let them dry ahead of time. So, all right. So I think this will be good. And we've got the first steps, and I think let's take a look at the instructions. I think that's all we need. Got my little 4x4 hoop in here with my 2 layers of my water-soluble. And let's see, it says to load the embroidery file and then to layer the pieces of, oh, no, there is a placement line. So there is a placement line. So we'll do that first. And I've got the ivory colored thread in my bobbin and my needle, because I wound some onto my bobbin. And I'm just going to I'm not going to use regular bobbin thread. It's just, I'm just going to use the bobbin that matches my top thread for both of these. Just saves time running back and forth and changing bobbins. So, all right, so we're going to do the placement lines first, and then we're going to lay our stuff down here. All right, so then it says to lay a piece of the tulle, the little white tulle here. And I am going to, this is one of my little tricks. Sometimes if you don't take the time to trim all of these little tails off the back before you start the lace, they kind of want to get, some of these little tails want to kind of get it caught. So I'm just going to trim everything before I start. There we go. Just trim the little tails off. And I'm going to lay a piece of the white tulle down. It's probably hard to see on the screen. It's white. And then I'm going to put my mylar down right over that. And I've placed it over my placement lines. And then you're going to lay another piece of tulle over the top. And they're pretty small. There's plenty there. And I'm going to tape all this down, because this likes to scoot. So we're going to tape all of this down so that it stays put. And I'll probably put a piece of tape on all 4 sides. Whoops, got that one a little bit crooked then. It's always a little hard. This is kind of scooty, and there we go. And we'll put a piece on each end also. So hold it steady. And the two little circles are like right here, so we got plenty there. All right, get this taped in. And then it says to change the bobbin thread, which I already have because I just started right out with it. And we're going to stitch the first thing, step number 2 is going to be the tack down line and decorative fill. So what it does is it tacks all this down, and then we're going, and it's going to do a decorative fill. And then it says, see what it's going to do here. So it's going to tack it down and do a decorative fill. And then I think it's going to do the orange next. And I don't know, it doesn't tell you. Oh, they must have you do the trimming after one of the oranges. So it's going to do this first, and then it's going to do the other color. So this is our little original decorative fill. And then we'll do the trimming and everything after the next step, it looks like. Stitch the lollipop tack down line and decorative fill. So that means more orange. So it's going to go over and do this one. Okay, so then we're going to put the orange in, and that one's going to be orange. The first one was the ivory, so let's get our bobbin out here. Put the orange in. This is the lighter of my two oranges. So, and then, oops, got to rethread the machine here. And then it's going to do that one. And then we're going to trim. I didn't realize that they were different colors, so the bases were different colors. All right, that one threaded, and then we'll put this one in, and then we're ready to do the second half here. I'm going to look though and see. I think I got everything trimmed on the back. I think it should be fine. Before I go to the next step, I'll trim again. All right, so then we're going to do this little decorative fill and the tack down. And then we will, it says to remove the tape and trim the tool close to the stitch line, tear away the excess mylar. So we'll do this one, and then we'll do our trim. These always turn out really cute. I think they're going to be on the tops of a couple of the little cupcakes. I know for sure one of the ones we're going to do in this video is going to be on there. So this is cute. And I'll show you the trimming. They have a really cute little decorative stitch in them. And it's easier to trim if you do kind of one layer at a time. I struggle a little bit with the trimming if I try to do everything at once. So I'm going to go ahead and take this out. And that was step number 3. Take all the tape off, and now we're going to do the trimming. So I'll probably just trim the top layer of tulle first, because you want to be pretty close. The satin stitches are not very big on these. Get all of this off of here. All right, put my glasses on so I can see what I'm doing here. It's pretty with the white tulle, it's hard to see it. So I'm going to do the top layer of tulle first. And it's nice that there's only just, a little circle, so it makes it easy to get off. Okay, we'll do the second side. They started doing these quite a while ago. I did these in some of the first quilts I did. Some of these little types of things with the mylar. It's really kind of neat. Okay, so there's that. And then we're going to tear the mylar. So I kind of put my finger along the seam line and tear in. Kind of tear towards the stitches. Keeps it from ripping outward, so it usually works pretty well. So I kind of tear inward, And if you get a little piece that's stubborn and it doesn't want to come off, if you grab a pair of tweezers and just grab it, it'll be easier. I think this one's going pretty good. Okay, so I got that, so I kind of pulled in towards the stitches. And then we're going to trim, if I can get a hold of it, the last layer of tulle, very close to the stitches. Probably can't see it very well on the camera. It's white. Everything's very white, isn't it, today? All right, just a little bit more here. Okay, so then I'm going to turn this over. And I like, again, I'm going to trim these little tails off, because if there's little tails hanging out, sometimes they get stuck in what I'm trying to do. So I like to trim as I'm going. Now the next step, step number 4, is going to be the lollipop satin outline. So that is going to be in the orange. So we'll leave the orange in. And it's going to do the outline on here. Whoops. I think I might have unthreaded my needle. I did. Get it rethreaded here. Come on, there it goes. And I'm going to back up so that it starts at the beginning again. All right, so then it's going to do this one, and then it's going to go back to the white again. So I'll be back in a minute when this is done. So it's just going to do the satin stitching, and then we'll switch the color and go back over and do this one. Okay, so we got the satin stitches around there. Now we're going to go back to the white. So I'm going to pull this bobbin out and put my, well, it's actually the ivory. Put that back in, change the thread. Get that in here. And then we're going to, I like to turn it over, and I trim in between each color, because I found that if you leave all those longer tails on the back, they can get caught. So if there's any tails, I like to trim it. So I'm just going to turn it over and trim these tails off. Put this back on, and then step number 5 is going to be some stripes, I think. A little stripe down through the center. Oops. Helps if I put my foot up, doesn't it? There we go. All right, so this is going to be like a little stripe that goes across the, looks like it might be a lollipop. And then the other one's like a little candy, little striped candy. It's going to go across here, and then we're going to switch back to the orange for the other side. But these become freestanding because they have something that holds them together, the tulle and then the thread. And the thread is not really freestanding, but what makes it freestanding is the tulle and the mylar underneath. So then it's going to go over and do, oh, it's going to do a little bit over here too. It's going to do the satin stitching. And then we're going to go to back to the orange. Okay, so we got the satin stitches on here, and we've got the little stripe. Now I'm going to turn this back over, and again, I'm going to trim those little tails so that they don't get stuck in the next color. Okay, and then we're going to put the orange back in. So step number 6 is going to be the orange for the candy. Put that back in here. Put that in the bobbin. And on the top. So these don't take very long to do usually. They're really cute. They turn out, they've done all kinds of different ones. I know they did these in like the Grimhilda's Bakery. Did some like dimensional things. And I know in Hello Sunshine there are some too. I think maybe even the pinwheels were done this way. Okay. All right. So then I'm going to start the last step here, and it's going to do the little candy swirls there, and then we'll be done with these. Okay, we got the little swirls on here. Aren't those cute? So I'm going to turn this over again, and again I'm going to trim. I like to trim the tails before I soak them, because sometimes the little tails get so hard, it's so hard to get to them when you soak these. So then we're going to trim this out of the stabilizer. I got them all. Yep, looks like it. So we're going to trim these out of the stabilizer, and I'm going to take these over to my sink, and I'm going to just, I'm going to soak out the stabilizer. I like to trim the stabilizer down, you know, so there's not so much of it. Oop, I got a couple little tails sticking up on the top here too. Get those. So I'm just going to trim these out, and then I'm going to go rinse these out. I like to use warm water, not hot, just nice warm water. And just a few seconds, and then I have a little tea towel that I use that after I've soaked it, I don't like to soak them too long because then they become soft, a little too soft. I like them to have some density to them. And then I will dab them on my tea towel to get some of the moisture out, and then I'm just going to set those over on my wool mat to dry. So I'll be right back after I soak those out so you can see what they look like. Okay, so they're all rinsed out, and I dabbed them off with my tea towel so that it would take some of the moisture out of them. And I'm just going to lay them over here and let them dry on my wool mat over here until we're ready to put our mini quilt together. So there's the little dimensional candies. So those are all done. So give me just a moment. We'll set up and we'll start the last 3 of the cupcake blocks. Okay, so we're going to go on to our last 3 cupcakes, and the first one is going to be cupcake 6, and it's this real cute little ghost one. And so it's going to be on a black background. So I've got my black background here. Sorry about the cat hair. I'll have to get my tape runner out again. So with the shape flex on the back. Get rid of this here. And then we've got the cupcake part, which is this yellow. And then we have the actual frosting part, which is this kind of white color. It's that kind of creamy color with the flowers on it. And then we're going to put some, we're going to put some of the foam on it. So let me get my little piece of foam out here out of my little embellishment kit. So I got to get that. It's stuck to my tool here. There we go. So we're going to put that on there. So I did not put any shape flex on the back of this piece of fabric because the foam is on the back of it, and also I found that sometimes I have a harder time getting it to go over the foam smoothly if I put shape flex because it's a little stiff then. So I didn't put any on that. I did on this one, and then this is going to be the bottom part, the little bat fabric again. So that's going to be the liner part. Okay, so there's our fabrics. And I've got my black thread in my needle because I'm going to quilt the black background first. And I think we want to use, so here they said to use Halloween 1 or Halloween 7, but I didn't have that one. So I have Halloween 1. So we're going to go back and get those cute little spider webs again for the quilting. And it's going to be 4x4. So I'm going to go find Halloween 1 is the one I'm going to use. So if you don't have what they call for, just use one that you have. There's a Halloween looking design in the clear blue tiles. So if you have clear blue tiles, there's some in there also that are really nice. There's one, I think it's the fall one that actually is more of a Halloween. It has little candy corn on it and that kind of thing. So F, G, I can't go very fast because it just goes all the way to the bottom then. Okay, so here's Halloween 1. And this one did not have clear blue tile files. It's just the Quilt As You Go files, like the block by block files. So here's my 4x4 one. Has the spider webs and the little spider on it. So we're going to set that one, and then we're going to go get our cupcake. So hit the add button. And let's see here. There's that one. Go to October. And then we're going to get the little ghost looking one. Here he is, right here, this one. And it's going to have some confetti around the outside again. So we'll get the ghost. And it says to bring it in centered, which it is. So it's all centered in there. Okay, so I think we're ready. Ready to go here. All right, so let's take a look here. We're going to start with our quilting as we have before. I'm back in my 5x7 hoop with my no-show mesh in the hoop, and then also I have switched back to my tighter bobbin case to use with my pre-wound standard bobbin thread. So it's a pre-wound bobbin in there. All right, and I've got my chunk of batting. Let me grab that. It's up here. Okay. All right, so the first step in the quilting is going to be our placement line for the batting. Get my batting ready. See if I can find my tape runner back here for the fabric. My cat was out here laying on things last night, so I noticed that everything dark colored has orange cat hair on it now. All right, she was helping me last night. All right, so then we're going to lay our batting down, and I'm going to tack it down. So that's step number 2 in the quilting. So not all of the quilting designs have both clear blue tile files and block by block files. So some of them are so directional, I should say, that they are only block by block. So this is one of those. They never had any clear blue tile files for this particular one. They have them color coded on the website. So some of them are blue, and those have both. And some of them are orange, and those just have the block by block. Unless they've changed it, that's the way it's always been. So, all right, so we're going to trim our batting. And I picked the 4x4, just like we did for the other 6 blocks we've already done. Oh my goodness, we're almost done here. These have actually gone pretty quickly. They're really fun. When I see the ones with 9 blocks, I'm like, oh golly, there's 9 blocks. But they really have gone pretty quickly. Okay, and then step number 3, as usual, is the placement line for the fabric. I'm going to get my tape runner out here and get the cat hair off. Oops. For some reason, this black fabric, too, is just very susceptible to catching lint and everything else. I don't know why. Must just be the fabric. There we go. Oh, that's better. Not quite so much orange on it now. Okay, and we're going to lay this over. Now see how it didn't catch. You were probably watching that as I was lint rolling. So when it doesn't catch, that's okay, and I know where to put it. But let me show you again how to fix that. If it happens, what I do is and this is caused, I feel, from the tight bobbin cases, because they're a little tight, so it doesn't always pick up the bobbin thread especially on stabilizer. I don't notice it as much if I'm sewing on fabric, but I'm just going to put the bobbin back in, and I'm going to leave the tail down here, and then we're going to just back up so you can see that it works. I'm going to back up a step so that we can do that one again, and then let's see how it does. But I think it's because, we cut see how it went right on there then. Okay, so if that happens to you, don't panic. It's okay. It does happen. Take the bobbin out. Just leave the tail. And I found that works the best for me. And I use pre-wounds all the time, so I do notice it. Okay. All right, whoops, looks like I got a long tail here. Let me see. Oh, there we go. All right, so now we're going to lay that over our placement line. Get it as even as I can, and then step number 4 is always the tack down line for the fabric. And then it's going to do the quilting. I kind of like to smooth it out, because sometimes I'll get a little a little pucker somewhere. Usually it's pretty good, but right, there we go. So there's the tack down for the fabric, and then step number 5 in the quilting is going to be the actual quilting. All right, off it goes for the quilting, and then we'll be ready to start our little ghost someplace where if I can find my white fabric, that is. Oh, here it is. I think I found it on the floor. So off it goes for the quilting, and I'll be back in a moment, and we'll start working on our little ghost cupcake. Okay, so we got our quilting on here with the little spider webs. And then the first step in the actual instructions on page 18, this is on page 18 for Cupcake 6, is going to be the placement line for the cupcake part, and that's going to be the yellow. So I put my Fashion Glow yellow in, and here's the little piece we're going to use. This has the shape flex on the back. We're going to do that one first, and then I think it goes to the liner. So we'll do that one first. We'll lay this down. like that. Then we're going to do the tack down line and we'll trim. And it looks like, yeah, the liner's next. I think I'm going to use my orange. The liner in there in the instructions was white. There was a couple of those pieces that with the little bats on it that were white, and I just didn't have anything light colored. So mine's orange, so we'll use the orange thread instead of the white, because it calls for white thread, I think. All right, so we're going to trim this close to the stitches. Maybe. It's a little harder with the shape flex on it to trim, but it does help it from coming, you know, like the dark color from coming through the back. I know that's why they put it on. It does help. All right. All right. So then we're going to do, it's going to do the little covers over here, the little edging, satin edging, and then it's going to do some of the sprinkles. And then we'll come back and we'll do the liner next. So, all right, we'll get those started, and I'll be right back when we'll do the liner. All right, so we got all the little confetti and the satin stitches on, and now we're going to do the placement line for the liner. I put my tangerine, my darker orange color in for that. I'm going to try to get this so that you can see that bat there pretty well. My bats are a little too big, but let's see if we can get it. So at least we have one bat really well and pretty well centered in there, so I think he'll be okay. I've got the little edge is right there, so I'm just going to make it just high enough to catch that. All right, so then we're going to do, I've got the shape flex on the back of this, and then we're going to do our tack down line, and we're going to trim this one. That should work. The bat should show pretty well. I looked and looked. I thought I had some smaller prints for Halloween, and I just didn't have much Halloween fabric. So I used what I had, which is fine. It's going to work out just fine. And that's what I tell people when they're doing these little things. If you have kind of a little stash build up, just do, you know, what works for you. You know, just use the fabric that works for you and what you got. Because I've been using up a lot of little, you know, and these take so little fabric. They're just tiny pieces so often. And so this is going to be a little tough to get trimmed because I have to get started. I don't have much at the top here because I kind of fussy cut it, you know, laid it down so I could get at least a bat on there. Okay, that's doing pretty well. And then, but it's nice to use up, you know, scraps. And I keep, like, especially the Kimberbell fabric, I keep all this, even the little pieces, because it's amazing how little fabric you actually need for a lot of these. And if you don't need, like, it'll say you need a fat eighth or something, and you only need about a 5-inch piece of fabric. So I keep all the little pieces. It's amazing how much I can get out of those things. All right, so there's that, our little liner. Got one bat kind of hanging off the bottom there. And then the next step is going to be, oh, this is on the top of page 19. This is going to be the foam, the flex foam. So I'm going to go ahead and put in my color that's going to match my fabric here, which is the ivory. So we'll put that one in, and we'll do the placement line for the foam. Second here, I'm kind of stuck on something, I think. There we go. I need to have my machine cleaned. I've noticed it's starting to act like it needs to be cleaned. Time to go see Ron and have its little spa day, you know. I did the other machine. I can't remember when this one was done last. I'll have to go look. It was done sometime this year, but I sew a lot, so my machine gets pretty dirty. I often have it serviced a couple times a year. All right, so we're going to put our foam on. Okay, put this up here. Now, I've got kind of a yellow spot in my foam. I'm going to try to avoid that if I can. Thought it might kind of show. So I'm going to lay that over there, and I'm going to hold it this time. Sometimes I tape this stuff because it's kind of scooty. I think I taped it the last time, but this one is kind of an odd shape, so I think I'm going to hold it. There we go. I think it'll be all right. And then we're going to trim this. And this is step number 7 on page 19. Okay, so then we're going to trim this. Now this stuff's a little, tricky to trim. Kind of got to pull up on it. It's a little stretchy. And you do want to get it trimmed pretty close to the stitches. Otherwise it kind of gets in the way of the putting the fabric on. So the next step is going to be the fabric placement line. That. So I'm kind of pulling up on it a little bit. This has like 3 layers, it has like foam in the middle and a couple pieces of tricot, so sometimes it's a little hard to trim it and get it trimmed down to the stitches. And it depends on the kind you use. I like the Kimberbell stuff because it's a little bit, I don't know, it's got a little more dense or something. Because I often have Pellon, and it kind of pulls apart. It's kind of weird. So this works a little better. Okay, so the next step is the frosting placement line, which is going to be still in that cream color, the ivory. So we're going to do that, and then we're going to lay our fabric down. I got to make sure it's right side up here. This is a hard one to know. And again, this one does not have any shape flex on it because I find that it usually works a little better, and I think I will tape this one down. I always struggle with getting a little pucker when I do this. So let's tape this one down. Sometimes that helps it, just holds it a little more firmly, and I can stretch it a little bit out. So hopefully it'll work. I still probably hold it too. All right, get that down. And it's usually right here that I notice it, so I'm going to hold it a little bit. So we're going to do the tack down line for this, and then we'll trim this one. Now I think this one is also a decorative stitch, so that's why you want to make sure you're matching your fabric with your thread, or matching whatever your outline is at least, because otherwise you may see it through there, your lines, your tack down lines. So that was step number 8. No, 9, I'm sorry, 9. And then 10 will be the decorative stitch. So let's go ahead and do the trimming. So this is the trimming. Go around here. And now this one again needs to be pretty close because this is going to be a decorative stitch again. So it's not going to be as wide. I always struggle a little bit getting close enough. There we go. That's better. That's why these scissors really help. So these double curved scissors have a very small tip on them, and it's easier to get close. I've done a lot of applique over the years, and boy, these sure do help. Okay, but when you have decorative stitches, you do have to be pretty close. All right, looks pretty good. And then step number 10. This is step number 10 on page 19. This will be the decorative outline. I've still got my ivory in. And then I'm going to move on to the liner. And the liner is going to be, instead of white, mine's going to be go back to the orange. Okay, so we get the little decorative stitch around here, and it is actually a little wider one. It's nice. And then it put a couple more pieces of confetti up here, and I've changed to my tangerine, my darker orange thread for the liner. So I'm going to do my liner in the tangerine, and in the instructions it does say white, so if you had that lighter color you might want to use that, but mine was orange, so I went back to the orange. So then the following, let's see, after that one's done, what's the next one? There's sprinkles, two batches of sprinkles yet, maybe 3. Oh no, and then the little face. A couple of batches of sprinkles and the little face on the top for the ghost. Okay, so I got my satin stitch on. My bat's eyes can still peeking out from underneath there. So the last 3 steps, which would be step number 12, 13 and 14. 12 is my lighter orange for some sprinkles, then the pink for the sprinkles, and then the black for the little face on the cupcake. So I will do those 3 steps and be back when I'm done. Okay, so we got our little ghost cupcake done, ready for the next cupcake. And that one's going to be, this was cupcake number 3, or I'm sorry, number 6, and then cupcake number 1 is the next one we're going to do. So I'll get all set up for that one, and we'll move on to the next one. Okay, so for cupcake 1, we have all kinds of little pieces here. Let's see. This one's going to be on the light background. So this is going to be done with the ivory thread. I've got my shape flex on the back of that. And then we're going to have the top frosting is a little piece of white. So I've got a little piece here, which these all have shape flex on them. And then the next layer is this orange. And then we've got another bit of white, like the top one, and then some of the pink, and these all have shape flex, and then the little liner is going to be the little black polka dots down here. So we got all these little pieces to put on in this one, so lots of applique. And it looks like we're going to have some cute little sprinkles on this one too. So it says to you, oh, we're going to use the Halloween the Halloween quilting design again. So when I want to leave that design in, because I've already got it in here, I can hit return, and then the last thing I put in is highlighted, so all I have to do is hit delete, and then I can leave that in, because that's the same one we're going to use, the 4x4, and I used Halloween 1, so we're just going to use that, and then I'm going to hit add and go get the cupcake 1. And this is the one has all the little sprinkles around it. See if we can find it. See here, October, let's see, it looks like it must be this one. Yeah, the one with that's all kind of roundish, so we'll get that one. All right, and that says to bring it in centered, so it's all centered automatically for us in the Brother and Baby lock machines, and we're ready for quilting already. Okay, so let's do the quilting first. Whoops, get all my little pieces of fabric over here. And I've got my ivory in my needle, ready for the quilting, and I've got my just regular bobbin thread in my my pre-wound bobbin in the bobbin, and I'm going to do the first step of my quilting, which is always the placement line for the batting. Get my little chunk of batting ready here. Still in my 5x7 hoop with my no-show mesh stabilizer in here. All right. Get this one. And we're going to lay down our batting. And second step in the quilting is always the tack down for the batting. Where this one has a bunch of little steps. It has a whole bunch of layers on it. I'm just kind of looking at the picture. I'm like, wow, this one has all kinds of little stuff on it. Cute block. And I think the last one, I can't remember, these two, maybe, this one has the lollipop little decorative thing that we did at the first. And this one has, these are both kind of like, oh, and this one, these two are the ones that have the little decorative elements on them. So these are cute. They're kind of round. They're a little more rounded on the top. So, all right. So we're going to trim our batting. Oops, here. Try to get as close as I can. They do leave a little bit of wiggle room on these, which is nice. So if you don't get real close, you're still fine. All right. Get the batting trimmed. And then step number 3 is going to be that placement line for our fabric. So let's see if we can get our thread to catch this time. Hopefully it does. Yep, did this time. Well, no, it didn't. See, it didn't catch. So again, if that happens, again, you're sewing on batting or just on stabilizer. I don't notice it if I'm sewing on batting or fabric. It's when I'm just sewing on the stabilizer. So we're just going to take this out. grab the bobbin out, and I just put a new pre-wound bobbin in, so it's a little tight. And I'm just going to go ahead and pull it around, but I'm not going to cut it off. I'm just going to leave the little tail here to give a little bit more to grab a hold of. And then I'm going to do my negative positive needle and go back to the beginning of that step. And that should catch it then. So that's a good thing to remember. I've had more problems since I've switched over to the tighter bobbin case, which I have to now with my pre-wounds. But that's a good way to fix it. And most of the time, like I said, with the batting, you notice it didn't happen with the batting. All right, so then we're going to lay our fabric. Oops, I got some black on the back here. Some lint. There we go. I'm going to lay this over my batting as close as I can to centered. Okay. And then step number 4 is always the tack down. So this is going to be that little spider web quilting again, but it's going to be in the white, like in the ivory color instead. So that'll be cute. All right. This is step number 4, and step number 5 of the quilting is always the quilting. So we're going to go ahead and do the quilting, and I'll let it go. And then I'll come back when we're ready for the first step of the cupcake. It's going to start up in that corner and work its way down. Okay, so now with this color you can probably really see the quilting. It looks really cute. So the next step is the first step in the actual design, and it's going to be in the pink, and I went to... It's going to do the little, like the little stick for the lollipop, and then some confetti. And then we're going to do the decorative, we're going to do the applique for the actual cupcake part, which is this pink also. In the next steps, I should say. Okay, so we're ready to do the placement line. This is step number 2. On page 20 for the little, the actual cupcake part. But this is going to be the pink. So I've got my Shapeflex on the back. Got that placement line, and then we're going to lay our fabric, and then the next step is going to be the tack down line. And then we're going to move on. Oh, it's going to do the satin stitching next for that piece. And then we're going to move on to the frosting. So the white and the orange are the frostings, because I think they go like this. Like this. Okay, so we're going to trim this. So I apologize, this video might be just a little longer because we had to do 3 blocks and the little dimensionals in this video. So this one may be a little longer because we had a lot of stuff to do. All right, I'm going to do the satin stitching on the edges of this. And then the next steps will be the placement lines for the frosting. I think it's going to do the white, and then the orange is in the middle, yes, and then this white. And since those are white, I am going to use white thread. They're telling you to use the ivory, but mine are actually white. So I am going to use white thread. Find my white thread here. My machine sounds better too. I don't know if you could hear the clicking. I must have had a needle that was needing to be replaced because my machine was making a clicking noise. So I went ahead and changed the needle while I changed the thread, and that helped. So if your machine sounds funny, just change the needle. I can always tell if it sounds funny. Okay, so then we're going to do the placement line for the first piece of the frosting here. So I've got the white in. This has got Shapeflex on it. Now mine's a little directional, so I'm going to make sure I get mine both going the same direction here. This is like that little herringbone. I don't know if you can see it very well, but they kind of point one direction. All right, so then we're going to lay this down over that and do the tack down line. And we're going to trim that one. This one had a whole bunch of little layers, all four little layers on it. Do that. And then this one, I think has a decorative outline on it. So we'll trim this one. So this one had all kinds of little applique on it. I like the rounded ones. And I also like this base fabric. I thought it was going to turn out really cool. I'm anxious to get this put together. It'll be so cute. And even though mine has pink instead of lavender in it, I think it'll still be cute. All right. So then we're going to do the decorative stitches along the bottom of this, and I've still got my white in. Whoops. Helps if I put the little flipper down. There we go. And it's going to do the decorative stitches, and then I think we're going to move on to the orange. Okay, so now I put my lighter orange in, and we're going to do, this is another piece of the frosting here. So we're going to do the placement line, and this is step number 8 on page 21. So I've got my little piece of orange here, and I'm just going to lay that over that. And this one's also a little dimensional, or directional, I should say, so I'm going to make sure that I get it kind of straight. Might look a little strange if my little check is kind of crooked. Do the tack down line. This is step number 9. This is also going to be a decorative stitch, so that's why we're using this. Really need to use the same color thread, otherwise it may just show through. All right, so I'm going to get this trimmed pretty close since it's a decorative stitch. This one in here. This one's really cute. I like these rounded, because the rest of them have been a little bit more angular, but these are cute with a little rounding on here. And then this one's going to do the decorative stitch around the orange. So I'm going to leave my orange in. Trying to unthread the machine. All right, we'll get that on there, and then we're going to move on up to the top part of the frosting. Okay, so I've gone back to my white thread. Since my fabric is more white, still shape flex on the back of this one. We're going to do our placement line for the top portion of the frosting here. And then I'm going to lay this down. And that was number 11. This is step number 12 that we're going to lay this down. I'm going to make sure I get that going the same direction there. My little herringbones. I'm not sure what that's called. I think it's like a herringbone. But the little design, it kind of goes one direction. And then we're going to trim this, and then it will do the decorative stitches on these. And then we're going to move on to the liner. So the liner is going to be with the little black polka dots. There was a bunch of little appliques on this one. Let's trim this one. These have been really fun. Oh, there we go. Okay. Got some little hairs there. All right. Then I'm going to do the decorative, and this one's also going to be decorative. So this is step number 13 on page 21, and then we will come back and do the liner. Okay, so we're ready to do the liner. The placement line is first, and this is step number 14 on page 21, 14 and 15. So we're going to do the placement line first, then I'm going to lay my fabric. I did put the shape flex on the back of this one too. Probably wouldn't have had to on this one because it's so dark colored, but all right. And then we're going to do our tack down line. We get this little tail out of here. There we go. Lay this down. And do our tack down line, and then we're going to trim this. And then what I'll do is it'll do the satin stitches around the cupcake liner, and then I'll also do the last step, which is in the yellow of the, it's going to do some more sprinkles up around the cupcake. before we go on to the next one. We're about ready to do our last cupcake. I can't believe we've gotten through all of these little guys. All right, so we're going to trim this one. They've been really fun. This one was different than some of the other ones. This one had a lot of applique in it, didn't it? Some of them do and some of them don't, but I love applique, so it's really fun to do the applique. This one's a little tough to trim with all that dark fabric on there. There we go. I think I got it. Very small. All right. All right, so off to the satin stitching, and then I'll also do the final color, which is just some more of the little sprinkles out here. I'll do those also before I come back, and then we'll be ready to move on to the last little block. Okay, so it's all done, and then the little popsicle or little lollipop is going to go like right here. So that little dimensional one that we did at the beginning will go right there. So that'll be the little, that'll be cupcake number 1. All right, so I'll get ready for the last cupcake, which is number 8. I've got all my parts here, and we will get started on that in just a moment. Okay, so the last cupcake, cupcake number 8, looks like it's going to have that light background again. So here's the light background. Going to have a white liner on the bottom, and then it looks like the cupcake parts are going to be orange. So I've got my little cupcake parts. All of these have shape flecks on them, and so does this. So all of these have shape flecks on them, and then I've got black down here. That must be the cupcake part. So that goes at the bottom, and then the orange goes on the top for like the frosting, and then this is the background. Okay, so and then we're still going to use the Halloween one, so we can go over here and get our design. We don't need to take everything out again. So we're going to go hit return, and then it selects the last thing we brought in, which was the cupcake pattern. So I'm just going to hit delete again. And then I'm going to leave my Halloween one in, Halloween 1. It's 4x4, and then I'm going to hit add, and then we'll go get the last cupcake. I can't believe we're on the last one. And we get to put it together. All right, let's see here. October. All right, so this one is, where is it? Must be this one. Down here, this is the one. Because it's kind of rounded on the top like the last one, but that's it. And then it says to bring it in centered, which it does automatically on the Brother Baby Lock machines. All right, so then we're going to hit embroidery, and I think we're ready to go. So I've got my 5x7 hoop ready to go here. We're going to do our quilting first, of course. Get my background fabric. I'm going to lay this over here, and I've got my ivory thread in the needle already, and my pre-wound bobbin in the bobbin, and we're going to do our placement line for the batting. Get my batting chunk here. I'm going to do that first. See if I can get all the lint off of it. Placement line first. That's always the first step in the quilting, and then we're going to lay this on top of our placement line. Okay, like that. Step 2 is always the tack down line for the batting. Tack down the batting, then we'll trim it. You guys should all be getting really good at this now, because we've done a bunch of these little quilts, and they're so fun, and they just go really easily once you get the hang of it. And putting them together is fun. So I do a couple of extra little things when I put them together. So we'll do that in the next video. We'll put it together. So we're almost done. Okay, so then I'm going to trim my batting. Okay. Maybe if I can get a hold of it. This one had a lot more blocks though than some of them have. Some of them have just had like 4 or 5 blocks, but this one had 9. I think the first one did too. Wasn't it the January one that had all the little snowmen in it? It was so cute. but it had a lot of little blocks. I remember when I did the videos for that, I thought, oh no, what did I get myself into? Because I thought it would be so much, you know, we had a lot of blocks. Okay, so then we're going to do the placement line for the fabric. So let's see if this one wants to catch for us. Hopefully it will. If not, we can fix it. It's always good that when things like that happen so you can tell. So that one caught, okay. And it doesn't do it all the time. All right, oops, a black thread on there. All right, so I got my shape flex on the back of all of my pieces. There's my placement line for the batting, or for the fabric, I'm sorry. And then we're going to get this on here, centered it as well as I can, and then we'll do the tack down line for the fabric, and then it'll do the quilting. It's going to still do that cute little spider web pattern, and then we'll be ready to start our cupcake. Can't believe that we're almost done already, my goodness. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get the quilting started. That's always step 5 of the quilting part of it. And start the quilting, and then we'll be back to start on our cupcake. Okay, so we're ready for the placement line. This is step number 1 of the actual design. So this is going to be the black for the cupcake part. And what I think I'll do for the rest of these pieces, this is going to be just like the last block, that we're going to work our way up, and we're going to have the orange, the second orange, and then the same orange as this one for the next parts up, and it's going to go up and do the frosting. So I'm going to do all of those steps in the lighter orange, and then we'll come back. So I'll probably do this one, and then we'll come back. I'll do all of the other applique pieces, because this is basically just like the other one that we just did. And then I will come back and we will do the liner together. It's also going to be doing some of the, some little sprinkles around the outside edge with some of the colors. So we'll trim this one. Then it will do some decorative stitching along the edges, and I think some little sprinkles too. I think it might do, no, this one doesn't do sprinkles in the black. But we're going to trim, and all of the little pieces, you know, so you just kind of work your way up. So there's a little longer one, a middle one, and a little shorter one, just like we did on the last one. But I am going to be using the same color for all 3 of these oranges, because it's my lighter orange. And then I will come back and we will do the liner together. So there's the satin stitches. Just going to do the satin stitches, and I know there's orange confetti. Not sure when it does some black confetti towards the end. So, but this is on page like 22 and 23 of the instructions. Okay, got the black done. We'll start the orange together, and then I'm going to do all 3 of the orange pieces before I come back on camera, and then we will move on to the liner. Okay, so I got all the orange pieces appliqued in, and I'm ready for the liner. Now the liner is supposed to be white, and you know my background is kind of light colored, so I noticed on this block that the white doesn't show up quite as much as I'd like it to. So instead of doing white satin stitches, I think I'm going to bring in maybe the yellow. Let's try maybe the yellow and give it a little, either yellow or pink, and give it just some color around that white. I think it'll pop off. I mean, it'll pop off the fabric a little bit more. So I don't know, maybe the pink. I kind of like the pink. So we're gonna give it a whirl and see what happens here. I'm making an executive decision. How about that? So we're gonna try the pink. So I'm actually gonna do the satin stitching in the pink instead of the white, because I don't think it's gonna show very much. So let's try putting some pink. Excuse me, I had to sneeze. And I think we're going to try the pink. So I've got white. I got some shape flex on the back of my liner fabric. And we're just going to put pink satin stitches around this one. It'll be a little different than the rest of them, but it'll be just fine. I just think it'll show better. I was afraid it may not show much. Okay, so we'll put this down. Okay, because my white over here didn't show very much. I thought maybe I should have picked a little bit darker fabric for the background. Might have been a little more tan maybe, but it sure looked kind of creamy in the instructions. So just like my pink looked like pink instead of purple, right? Well, let's try this pink. I kind of like the pink, so we'll try that. So this was steps number 13 and 14 on page 23. I had done steps 4 through 12 off camera. So those are all the same, and you guys will be able to do that no problem. Oops, I got a great big long tail in here, my goodness. So we're going to trim this. And we'll see what the pink looks like. I'm going rogue, guys. Let's see what it looks like. I was just afraid that maybe it would just be kind of bland and you wouldn't notice it too much. I think it'll show up nice with the pink around it, I think. And then there's some pink, some more pink and maybe black. So we have to do some other colors here, but there's going to be some more of the little confetti around the outside edge too, the colors. All right. So we'll trim this. I don't mind the white. I just didn't think it would show with the white border. So we'll just try pink on it instead. All right. So now we're going to do our pink satin stitching. And then this is step number 15. So I didn't use the white, I used the pink. 16, 17, and 18 are pink, black, and yellow for more confetti. And I'll go ahead and do those off camera also and come back and see what it all looks like. I think I'm going to like the pink. I was surprised that when it was supposed to be lavender, but it sure didn't look like that on the first pages I was looking at. But I kind of like the pink. So we'll take a look and see what it looks like. I'll be back when I'm done with all the confetti. Okay, so there's our cupcake. It's kind of the opposite of the other one, the first one that we did. This other one that we did with the black at the bottom and the pink here. So this one has pink at the bottom and then black here. And I think that looks okay. I could have put maybe pink fabric there, and that might have been looked nice too. So then this little candy goes on top, so that when we get it all put together, we'll put that on top. But I think it looks okay with the white, and I like the pink on there. Just needed a little bit more color. I think my background could have been maybe a shade darker possibly, but I still think it looks fine. Okay, so now we're done with all of those, and I just need to move my camera over, and we will trim all 3 of our blocks. So here's the 3 blocks that we've just completed in this video. And of course we completed our 2 little dimensional candies here, the little candy and the lollipop thing. So those are going to be on the little blocks once we get it all put together. So give me a minute. I will move over so that we can do the trimming. Okay, so we're going to trim our little blocks here. And we got our 4.5-inch pop ruler. And I'm going to use my little basting stitches around here to help me get this lined up. The outside ones to make sure it's kind of in the center. They're a little hard to see with the black stitching on the black fabric, but I think it'll be okay. There we go. I think that looks pretty centered. And I'm going to start, I'm going to start in, I've got my rotating mat here, I'm going to start in a little ways on the ruler. We're cutting on the inside and push forward. I like to start in a little bit, pull back and push forward, because that really helps me get into that corner. So I'm going to push down, pull back, and push forward. There we go. It's pretty good. So there's the first one, the little ghost. He was so cute. All right, we got that one. Now here's one of the lighter colored ones. Get this one all lined up, and I can see my little outline basting line. It's like the tack down line for the fabric that I'm using. That helps me get it lined up. Do the same thing. These are all 4.5 inches. And I'm just careful when I use my pop rulers. I don't work on them very quickly. I'm still pretty deliberate with them. Okay. Still feels a little odd cutting on the inside. It's taken me a while to get used to it. There. So there is the second one. Okay, and then we'll do this last one. Probably could have used pink fabric there, but you know, it'll be fine. I didn't have any pink fabric cut. It said to do white, but I like the pink thread, I think. It just gave it a little more color. Just needed a little bit more color. I think my background fabric could have been just a hair darker. But I think it'll look fine when it's all stitched together. And do the same thing with this one, 4.5 inches. Okay, one more side. Get this Martelli roundabout, man, I tell you, works really slick when you're trying to do stuff like that. And then you can hang on better. So there we go. And then we're going to have the little candy on top of this. I think it'll look fine because I made these so they were kind of opposites of each other. So this could have been pink down here, but I just didn't have it cut. So I think it'll be all right. Okay, so there's those three. We have completed all of our little blocks. There's the last three. Here are the two little decorative pieces we did. And then here's all of our other blocks ready to be put together. So thank you so much for joining me for video 3 of the October Kimberbell Mini Quilt. So we'll be ready for video 4, and we're going to put this together, put the backing on and everything. So thank you so much for joining me. If you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, Sew Along with Jan, I'd really appreciate it. If you enjoyed the video, hey, give me a thumbs up on the video. And then also come join us on Facebook in my group called Sew Along with Jan. And I'll be seeing you in video number 4, and we'll put together our little mini quilt. Thanks, everybody.